May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest this time is blessed for you. This time is blessed and shining, almost blinding bright. Just turn your head and you'll begin to see the thousand reasons that were just beyond your sight. The reasons why I suggest to you, why I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a world that's been addressed to you, intended only for your eyes. A secret world, a treasure chest to you, of private scenes and brilliant dreams and mesmerize. A tender lover's smile, a tiny baby's hands, the million stars that fill the turning sky at night. Oh, I suggest, yes, I suggest to you, yes, I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a hope that's been expressed in you, the hope of 7 generations, maybe more. This is the faith that they invest in you. It's that you'll do one better than was done before. Inside you know, inside you understand. Inside you know what's yours to finally set right. And I suggest, oh, I suggest to you, and I suggest this is the best part of your life. This is a song, comes from the west to you, comes from the west, comes from the slowly setting sun. This is a song with a request of you, to see how very short the endless days will run. And when they're gone, and when the dark descends, we'd give anything for one more hour of light. May I suggest this is the best part of your life.
If the room were filled, I don't even think people would be applauding. I think they would just be silent in awe. Thank you. It is one of my favorite songs. I downloaded it. There's so many versions you can download. So many versions, and I have one of them, and I listen to it on repeat and remind myself, this is the best time of my life. How many of you are thinking, whoa, that's absolutely a perfect song for today? It's a perfect song. What if this is the best time? What if this is the time that we have the space and the challenges to grow beyond our limitations? But before I go to that, the theme for this month I think is wonderful. It's Listen to the Heart. I shared this on Facebook. Our monthly theme is Listen to the Heart. And I shared this on Facebook this morning, I think. Yeah, 2 hours ago. Our heart knows what our mind has forgotten. It knows that the sacred is within all that exists, and through a depth of feeling, we can once again experience this connection, this belonging. And this was by Llewellyn Vaughan Lee. Don't know who she is, but I love that she wrote it. So if we listen to our heart, it reveals to us things that our mind can't quite comprehend. There is a wisdom of the heart that is that can lead us right now. And it makes everything richer. But today, I just want to, before I even go into that richness and that leading and all that other stuff, I just want to say that this is a very traditional day. And so this is a very odd day for me, because there's tradition, and then there's and then there's upset. But today is the traditional time that people in the United States honor those who have given their life in service to their country. That's what Memorial Day is about. Think about it. They gave their life for me and you. So the least that we can do is to take a moment and just say thank you for that service to all of us. I heard that the Arlington Cemetery is closed because of the virus, but you can take a virtual tour. We're not out and about much now, which affects the second tradition. Because in my family, the Memorial Day weekend, starting on Saturday, so it was either Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, our family would go to the graves of our ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, cousins, uncles, extended family, and place flowers on the graves. And I guess that's not going to be happening now. So it's a traditional time for my family, and even though my family is buried in Oklahoma or the Eugene area, even if I wasn't there, I would get pictures of the flowers that wonderful local relatives were taking care of, that honoring. And that will be changed. And for this community, wow, this is first service. Show up second service and all the cheers will be done. And this is when I get the cry out. This is the let's get it out of your system service. So thank you for being here as I get this out of my system. For our spiritual community, this particular Sunday traditionally has been the time where we take a moment and we honor our family members, our pets, those people and expressions of life that we have loved and lost. And people would come up and bring flowers, and there'd be, if this was happening now, there'd be vases all over filled with water, and people would be bringing up their flowers from their garden. And I love it. We'd also be willing to sell you some at a really good price. No, it wasn't a good price. It was a fundraiser for the youth group, so it wasn't even a good price. So for a lot of money, we would sell you a flower, and people would be filling the vases and doing it in remembrance. And they would remember that person or that pet, because honestly, we have shifted. This isn't my grandfather or my grandmother's generation. So many of us see our pets as family members. And so people would be honoring those wonderful expressions of life and love, and they'd put a flower in a vase, and they'd have moments. And then what I would ask them to do, and I would ask you to do this now, is what is it that you loved about this person? And even though they've moved on, what would you like to bring forward in your life that they brought forward into your life? What is it you want to bring forward? What attribute do you want to bring forward? So just take a moment and let's do that. Think of the person, that expression of love, that avenue through which you got to love. Isn't that a privilege? Isn't it a privilege that you got to love? So what is that brought the love out in you? And honor them again. And ask yourself, now that they've moved on, what are you to move forward into life? What are you to move forward into life? So that the vibration that they added to this incarnation does not end with them. It continues on in you. It continues on in me. So let's just take a moment. Hold that person in your heart. Say thank you. I love you. I bless you. I miss you. And I will carry on for you. I use the term move on, and I'm really liking that term. I think people just move on. They leave their body and they move on. One of my husbands, Jack Lewis, died this year. And in fact, it was so interesting. I got the message that he had moved on while I was at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. It seemed so appropriate. But one of the things that he said in the blog that he was creating every day up until the day he left, or when he couldn't really write much more, he said, I am so in tune with life that I see that death is nothing more than an upgrade into first class. And that was truly not words that he was using casually. He was having an experience of what it would be to move on, to move up, to be free and unencumbered. In other words, this is a traditional time. This is a traditional time for us to speak of life and death. And to move into life, we have to move into death. And to move into death, we have to move into life. And to explain more of that, I traditionally read Kahlil Gibran. Kahlil Gibran, the prophet. And he said, you would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. And in the depths of your hopes and dreams, your desires lie your silent knowledge of the beyond. If I was going to paraphrase that, I would say, in the depth of your heart, if we listen to our heart, we will know of the beyond. He goes on to say, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust your dreams, for in them is hidden the gateway to eternity. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from the restless tides that may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, only then can you truly dance. So think of those that you've lost. As I think of Jack Lewis dancing. Oh, he loved to dance. Think of the ones that you have lost and see them dancing, expanding, enjoying that thing that is constant and eternal because it is God, and that is life. Ernest Holmes said that before he would do any funeral service, he said, first I had to convince myself once again that there was only life, and when I knew that, I could speak at any funeral because there was no death. Maybe that's why we have this service once a year, as a reminder, because we forget. I was struck by a metaphor recently. It's not a metaphor. I'm going to make it a metaphor. In fact, I'm actually going to make it a parable, but it's actually a fact that I'm going to make into something. Just like Jesus took how the people of his time would cultivate the land and grow crops, and he turned them into parables. And he would take how people would take the grapes and turn them into wine, and he made parables. And how people made bread, and he made them into parables. So this is a fact that I want to turn into a parable because I love it. And the fact is that one of the reasons why bamboo is considered sustainable is because, A, it grows so quickly, and one of the reasons it grows so quickly is that when you chop down bamboo, it springs up from the roots. It doesn't have to be cultivated from a seed. Then the seed goes in the ground, has to make a whole root system, and then once it finally gets a good root system, then it can pop up, and that the roots have to grow to sustain the plant that's growing. No, the root system is already there, already rich with life, and it just sprouts up from there. I find that fascinating. In fact, there was a time when we lived on Magnolia that Tim and I wanted to have a bamboo barrier. So we planted bamboo. But before we planted the bamboo, we made a fence. But the fence was in the ground. Because if you don't fence that puppy in, you would not have anything but a bamboo forest. Because the bamboo goes everywhere, the roots go everywhere, and it sprouts up everywhere, and we wouldn't have had a yard. We wouldn't have had rhododendrons. We wouldn't have had tomato plants. We would have had a bamboo forest. Whew. So, what's the metaphor here? It's sustainable because it doesn't take replanting. A lot of us think that we have to have these new things planted, like we're going to have to start over and it's going to be hard. Life grounded in God can spring up easily. Life grounded in God can spring up easily. Now, for this particular day, since we're talking about life is eternal, I believe that those people who have lost that expression of the bamboo stalk, it seems like the body is gone, the stalk is gone, but no, they're going to spring up into a new expression. That's the way I believe it is. It's like they move on. That life is going to spring up. I know that if Jesus had been in China and saw the bamboo forest, he would say, life is like a bamboo forest. You just can't cut it down fast enough because life's going to spring up. I also believe that when we think that our life has been cut off, like we're in quarantine, some of us have lost our jobs, some of us have lost opportunities to socialize. Extroverts are going crazy because the social outlets are gone. Well, the way that it was has been cut off. And yet, when we're grounded, when we really seek our nourishment from the ground of our being, when we have let those roots grow deep, we can spring up. It's natural and normal. That's the way it is. That's the way it can be. We don't have to have something start slowly and germinate. It can actually just spring up. New ideas can spring up. Now back to that bamboo. Back to bamboo. I'm loving this. Remember that fence I told you about? And Garnett is a gardener, and Garnett's shaking her head, yes. If you don't put that fence in, it takes over. I'm reading a book. I didn't bring it with me. It's the Beverly Hills Lectures. And it's by Ernest Holmes, but it's not really by Ernest Holmes. It was 6 talks that he did to a group of friends in his home in Beverly Hills. And those talks were transcribed and put into a book. And in that book, he is so casual, and he explains things in such a metaphoric way. He's easier to understand than in any other book that I've read of his. Well, I can't say that concisely, but I'm going to say I resonate with that book more than I do his other books. I resonate with it a lot. And in that, he says that life seeks expression, just like that bamboo seeks expression. Life seeks expression. When I was in Petra in Lebanon, it was a thriving, huge trading city for hundreds and hundreds of years, and then sort of lost. It was sort of hidden by the Bedouins. It was found accidentally. And what's so interesting about it is that all of these beautiful monuments in the rocks, and whether they were man-made or made by nature, anytime there was even a crevice, life would start to take over. And I don't have the pictures with me. I should remember that, and we could be showing them to you. But in every crevice, there'd be life springing out. Life wants to happen. There is an irresistible force for life to express. And we think of life as plants or animals, but life is actually the very foundation of this universe. It's alive. Physicists are now thinking that it not only is alive, it thinks. Well, catch up, physicists. So I'm thinking about him saying that life expresses, and I'm thinking, well, why doesn't it always express? Have you noticed that some people seem to be fenced in? That there's this expression that it wants to push out, and yet some people never go beyond the experience they've always had. It's just same old, same old, same old, same old. And I must say, I think that that's me too. I think I cried too much. I've got a runny nose now. Okay, second service. Come back second service. I'll be all together. If life seeks expression, why doesn't it, like bamboo, weeds, blackberries, dandelions, ivy, what else? Mosquitoes. And mosquitoes. Why doesn't it just keep propagating itself all over the place? Especially in us, human beings who have come to the place where we can actually cooperate with life consciously. See, the bamboo, I think, and the blackberry vines and the ivy do it unconsciously. They're just, I have to express. But we can actually shut that puppy down. We can actually feel thwarted. How many of you have ideas and don't act on them? And how many of you haven't had a new idea in a very long time? That's not natural. It's normal. We do it, but it's not natural. Ernest Holmes in the Beverly Hills Lectures gave me an insight, because I think he had an insight. And he just sort of passed it off like, oh yeah, let's talk about this. But I'm reading it and I'm thinking, that's it. He said he was inspired by the works of a psychoanalyst whose name is Karen Horney. I think she should have changed her name, really. Why? But anyway, and she was a professor, Professor Horney. It's just wrong. Anyway. Yeah, Horney. Okay, I'm having a moment. Come back second service. I'll be cool, honest. Anyway, you know that I didn't make this up because I wouldn't have made that up. Anyway, she said the core of all issues is a sense of rejection, guilt, insecurity, and anxiety. The core of all the issues, all of the psychoanalysis that she'd done came to 4 things: rejection, guilt, insecurity, and anxiety. And then he goes on. It's like, but that's it. I get it. That's it. That is it. I have worked with so many people, so many talented people, that they get to a certain point and they can't go beyond it. There's a fence around them. They can imagine something, but they can't really go there. And if they go there, then they spring back. It's so natural for us to have, what I'm going to say, it's almost protective barriers. Of this is the life that I'll live, I'm comfortable here, this is uncomfortable, I won't go there. I need to do a whole talk on this, but I'm just going to go quickly into this. It made so much sense to me because I think that almost all of us at some time were rejected. Most likely we were all rejected. Unless we were brought up by conscious monks who were told us all the time that you are the incarnation of compassion, like they did the Dalai Lama, most likely there was been a sense of rejection. Or if you had a mama that said, hey, guess what, you're God, you are the Son of God, then there is going to be a sense of rejection. And it's not personal, it's just what happens. And from a small person's point of view, rejection can come from anything. I know because I've done my own backwards introspection that when my father left my mother, through no fault of my own, and no fault of hers, it was just the thing, when he left, me as a child thought something must be wrong with me because Daddy's leaving. I took it as rejection. And then my mother was so upset and wondering how she was going to support a child as a single mother, and she was so distracted and out of it that I took that as rejection. Rejection can come from things like big sister got a bike and I didn't. It can come from my brother gets to stay up late and I don't. It can come from mom and dad are having financial issues, so there must be something wrong with me because they're not paying attention to me. Anything. And that sense of rejection is probably the sin that is visited upon the children for 7 generations. Just as there was hope, there was also the mistakes of being distracted when the child needed all that attention. What can happen from this rejection is that we feel there must be something wrong, that we did something wrong, therefore we are guilty and we don't even know what of. We can't even pinpoint it. And from that comes guilt and unworthiness and not good enoughness. And I have worked with so many people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the classes that I've done. And a lot of times we run up against when they want more. And I ask them, why aren't they expecting more? Why can't they accept more? They say, I don't know. And when I press them just a little bit more, because that's what I do, I am the spiritual ass kicker if you ever want it. And I press them just a little more, they will say, I don't think I'm good enough. Or I don't know that I'm worthy. It gets like, but where did that come from? And then if we believe we're unworthy, then we're going to see all the reasons why we're unworthy, because out of that consciousness, we're going to experience more unworthiness. Consciousness is cause. Oh my God, it's an epidemic. I'm more afraid of this than that stupid virus. I think that keeps us down more than some, it was not even a bug. It's a cell gone rogue. This is much more insipid. So if we think we're guilty, there's something wrong with us, then we will be insecure. We will not want to really find out what people really think of us. We're insecure. I have heard it so many times. I mean, this is all making sense now. I've heard it from so many times that people are afraid to be themselves because they're afraid that if they are themselves, people won't like them. Who they are isn't good enough. How many people have not really shared their whole self because if you knew who I was, would you really respect me? Would you still like me? So we put on a facade. Personality means a mask. And then there's anxiety. If we believe that I am not enough to move into new ways of living and expressing and loving and creating, I'm anxious because somebody might find out who I really am and I don't know that I'm good enough, then we're anxious about everything. And so we play it small and we like comfort. And so right now, what's happening with this quarantine and the upset and people saying, I want to be free, and some people saying I'm a germaphobe. I mean, we've got all expressions. But all of that is coming from an anxiety of, I had a comfort zone and it's being disrupted. I don't know how to handle it. May I suggest to you? May I suggest this is the best part of your life? Why? Because we're being disrupted. And now might be the time to look at those patterns and see they're not working. See, if we stayed comfortable, we might not look. I wish that we all grew from glory to glory, but we don't. We grow because of crisis to crisis. Things get so unmanageable and so uncomfortable, then we look inside and we say, oh, help me, God. And God says, okay, here. But if things are going well, how many of us really turn to that power within? Now, there's some of us, I know that you're watching. Some of you are watching. Some of you do that because turning to God has become the way of life. You know, it's said that we are a philosophy, a teaching, and a way of life. The way of life is to always live from the inside. This teaching as a way of life is to always look from the inside out. But boy, sometimes for a long time I didn't do that until until the outside just got too big to handle. You know, and then I'd call upon the big guns. You know, oh, I could have had a prayer. So we play it small. So what is to be done? There's always therapy. But what you'd have to do, I think, with therapy is to go back and see all and recognize all and erase all of those little teeny tiny instances that we interpreted as rejection. I've been at this long enough and had a practitioner who was willing to lead me backwards, and I now do it with myself, but that's a long time. And then I got a download. And what I got was that we need to let the Holy Spirit remove that below the ground fence. Because with all of those little rejections and all of that anxiety, we have built a little wall. Not going to go there, not going to go there, not going to go there. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Pretty soon we are confined and we don't even see it. It's below the surface of our consciousness. And so all of this mighty power to grow and to be is held below the level of consciousness. And so we spring up and everything's great. But if things get chopped down, we don't know how to move beyond this comfort zone. Although the power within could, but we've confined it. it's apparent. So let's just know that the way to do that is to know that life is perfect. So let's just all have some stuff. There is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life. Now, that's a nice saying. But to get to it, we have to really own that it's perfect. We have to really own that there's a life that's beyond our concept of life, and that life is in us. And then we let that life push, because it can do more than we can do as an individual. Like, sure, I can say no to that belief and no to that experience, and that's healed, and do a lot of forgiveness. But life itself can dissolve the fence that I've created. And we let life, or the Holy Spirit, which is the only real healer, we let that dissolve, push past the artificial boundaries of expressions. Like the plants will always push through the pavement. And blackberries are going to come up on the other side of the field. I don't know how they do that. We chop them down, we think they're done, and then they show up over there. Nature always wins. What we have done is create lives that are normal, and we haven't let our life be natural, because nature wins. So let's do a prayer. Thank you. So I just give thanks in this moment that we get to turn our attention to that life. That life that is full, that life that is rich, that life that is everlasting, eternal, immortal. And it is also omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, omnipotent, all-powerful. That life is all-powerful. And I speak my word of healing for myself and everyone listening to this message, that we let life move past the barriers that we have self-imposed upon ourselves. Not for any reason except our own ignorance, our own ideas of protection, our own fear of the unknown, and our own anxiety of facing and believing and living something new. So I give thanks that it is the Spirit of God that leads us out of this confined situation. Holy, holy, holy is the one that lives within us. Holy, holy, holy is the power that expresses through us. Holy, holy, holy is the life that vitalizes this incarnation, and it knows no boundaries. I speak my word of healing for each and every one of us, that those things that have kept us confined in the normal, confined in the over and over and over again situations of our life, those things are dissolved by the power, the only power that is in the universe. The Holy Spirit itself is now moving through our life and freeing us to live expansively, to say, even in this moment, even with what's going on in the world, I will create a new experience and I will be led from within. I am not the victim of circumstances. I am a triumphant expression of God on earth, and so it is.